I'm going to introduce him to you right now because we are going to talk about, hi, David Weinstein.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. First of all, I'm not a Star Wars fan, but I am a Godfather fan, and you forgot the most important thing. I'm a huge music fan. So
Well,
you're talking, yeah,
yeah. So when Desert Trip happens with
like that
Zeppelin,
one.
are we all getting the let out?
Oh God, something that I would missed in my whole lifetime that I would love to see. But anyways,
Well,
we're
good.
not here to talk about music. Because
No,
if we
well, we
were,
can talk about whatever we want. We're
well,
gonna.
then the show, if it's music, the show's going to be 3 or 4 hours. So do you have time?
We got all the time in the world. So if you are now just joining us, again, Small Business Week, we are doing a whole series this week about small business, and I brought in friends, colleagues, experts to join us talking about everything from live video, SEO, how to build your confidence in small business. And of course, all of this is wrapped around social media. So David, even though he is a CPA, I'm going to ask you a burning question. And here, sit up a little because I can't see you down there. There you go. Now I see you. There I see you. Hey, so social media. I know you're on Facebook. Do you use any other social media channels?
No, other than me being informed about certain things, but not from a business perspective.
Right. So you're not even using LinkedIn. You're not using Twitter.
No. I get asked a lot, though. I get a lot of emails that someone tweeted me.
Right.
So,
Right.
but nothing. Facebook is just, to me, more of a social media from the social perspective. I've never used it from the business perspective. So.
Right, which is totally fine. But I bet your kids do. Your kids are a generation who will use all of these channels to build their professional lives going forward, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why a lot of them are 17 and 18 years old going on 27. So
that's a whole nother conversation. And by the way,
yes, but yes, my kids are definitely involved with it. They're all over on it, and some pleasant posts, some not. But go ahead.
Right. I'm just saying hello to Ephraim, who's joined us. He's been an avid participant in hashtag social media. Hashtag Small Business Week. But we were also talking offline earlier about the fact that you didn't really need to use social media at all to build your business, your consultancy as a CPA, because we all came of age when this didn't exist. And then some of us, based on our professions, actually helped develop some of this and then, grew along with it. But what would you say to somebody now entering the professional space as an accountant, as a CPA, maybe somebody building their own agency like yours? What would you recommend to them?
Well, a lot of people, I'm kind of from the old school. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. And I think the yellow pages, I always ask people, where did you, if I ever get someone that calls me, I always ask them, where did you get the referral from? A lot of people will say, well, you're a friend of a friend, or I know you do my brother's return. But in the past, it used to be a lot of I found you in the yellow pages.
In the past.
But now what I'm trying to get to is, I think with the exposure and with how much you can elaborate about your services without having someone to go through just a website, and a lot of them are just structured websites, not very informative, but elaborate on that a little bit, as well as get out there to a lot more people, obviously. And I think the one thing is a lot of people are looking for niche businesses, and that's one of the specifics that you could put into social media that you don't look for on a website or don't think you're going to find on a website.
So let me.
Yeah, I would recommend it highly. Yes.
Right. So we talked about this yesterday with our colleague Darren Kramer about niche and local, where search engine optimization (SEO) is concerned. So you could potentially, if somebody was building a new accounting practice. Oh, excuse us. If somebody was building a new accounting practice and a specialization, would I might be searching for LLC specialist, S Corp specialist, S Corp tax specialist? What might I be looking for, do you think?
Well, a lot of times there's going to be people that it's going to be special kind of accounting. It might be special kind of taxes. And the way that I know that there's specific subjects out there is I get a lot of information, a lot of bulletins, a lot of publications that are for CPAs to keep up with their continuing professional education. They
Right.
tell you what's going on out there. And a lot of it is what's coming back as feedback from the clientele. So what has happened is they will, by reading this, they're going to say, hey, for instance, this is actually a very hot topic right now. And I get a lot of emails about continuing education, the accounting for the cannabis industry. It's there's a lot of rules and regulations on it. And that's actually something that's brand new, and it's going to be expanding, obviously, with all the different states. Illinois just is now legal in medical
Right.
respects. I know California voted it's medical, and now they voted for. But it's very, very. It's a big thing. I mean, that's a niche. That's one of those niche.
I understand now where you're going with that. So what's interesting, we have to take just a little side journey into
Sure.
the tax consequences, benefits, considerations for the cannabis. I'm so glad you brought this up because there's a number of people who will now be really interested in this conversation. I'm going to do a little shout out to Kira Reed, who is a woman in cannabis. She actually organizes and works in a panel that is specifically dedicated to all that. She is in California. Kira, going to tag you later. My brother and sister-in-law, we'll talk about that offline. They're up in Oregon. They have a medical business. And our friend, Jody Bookman, I think her brother-in-law her husband Michael's brother-in-law has a business in Illinois. So maybe you want to talk to him. But anyway, so it's huge. And even in Desert Hot Springs here in California, they have never really been, let me do this. They've never really been they haven't attracted as many tourist dollars as a lot of the other places in the Coachella Valley, like Palm Springs, like La Quinta. And they made a very smart decision as a community to allow medical grow and actually consumer grow, but they're really, if I'm not mistaken, they're really governed by or owned by sort of corporate entities. It's not like a small shop down the street is growing something in their yard. These are huge businesses, huge grow farms. And Desert Hot Springs, from what I understand, is going to generate a lot of revenue that will go to public goods and services, which I think is really important.
That is probably, the biggest niche that an accounting firm can say, hey, we want to specialize in this, but that's not topic right now. There's topics also about people asking me and calling me questions. What do you think about if the tax law changes and the new corporate tax rates and all that? So the topics do come across social media as well, and that's making clients of mine who are friends of mine on Facebook, for instance, more aware of what's going on and then coming to us to ask me the questions. So that happens a lot too. It's happened a ton of times with the Affordable Care Act and what their income level is going to be, and do they qualify for a subsidy? Most of the things are calling me, how am I going to afford this? But but I've had a lot of questions on that as well. That's a hot topic, not just with not employees, but individuals, but employers.
Right.
So, that's another thing. Those are the two main, I think that's one of the country's most, especially, the health topics. And there is a tax ramification for people that not only need help to sign up for the insurance online, if they don't have an insurance person, but it's ask where they could say, hey, what's going to happen if my income goes above the level where I normally qualify for a subsidy? A lot of people are still confused about that. So that's another topic that a lot of people learn about it on the social media too. So it's not just the people actually when I say people, the accounting firms actually having to branch out to social media. It's also the public being able to be more educated
Well, see, and this is where, and this is interesting because if you were at the beginning of building your practice, and maybe this information will be, and this perspective and guidance will be useful for somebody who is new and building a practice and isn't fortunate to just have a steady stream of referrals all the time like you, with these niche businesses, like what to do around insurance, what to do if you are a cannabis, all these things. What I would be recommending to somebody is develop content and a digital and social footprint that really amplifies your position as an authority on these topics. So if you're an accountant who has a really solid understanding and has worked in and around the cannabis considerations, I would be doing a video series. I would be doing an ebook. There's lots of different things. I guess it would depend on the individual business and how extensive their resources were, in terms of committing time and energy to developing those things. But, we've talked a great deal about that also throughout this series about developing your voice and your voice as an authority on a topic. So that's really interesting. I love that we segued there without even trying. So that's fantastic. What you were touching on with, say, Affordable Care Act and insurance subsidies and all of that, I guess one of the things that I would love for you to share is, 3 things that we as businesses, small businesses, can do to help you help us. Like, what aren't we doing? What are we doing wrong, David? Why do you hang up from us and go, why can't they just give me the things that I need?
That is partially true, and it's
not. I know.
But it's not you, though. You're okay. No, I will tell you. I'm going to tell you this right now, and it's going to sound like I'm against this particular company because they actually
no names.
Well, no. They're a big company. They produce my software. I think they gobbled up everybody, which is into it. Okay, so they basically are the conglomerate of just not TurboTax and QuickBooks, and they hold a lot of professional software. By the way, is a very good a piece of software. But here's the problem that I come up with in small businesses. If it's the person it could be 2 situations. It could be the person that's a small business that does his own accounting, or it could be, which is not really that big of a deal, but it's the person that has someone that has a in-house, per se, bookkeeper / what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
No, I say sorry.
Accountant.
Yeah.
And they use this specific software called QuickBooks that at the end of the year, they will give it to me, and it will, not everybody is like this, but it won't be 100% inaccurate or a mess, but and for lack of a better word, by the way, but there's a lot of construction to do to find out where something is put in the wrong place, where it should have gone, where they put it, and if it's a small company.
I'm guilty.
Well, if it's a small company, then it's not as bad. But if you have someone that has, 7, 8 figures of income, and which is a trigger to say, well, if he has that much income, there must be a lot of it. Then it gets to be even a greater problem. So, and I will use the term not very loosely, but garbage in, garbage out. Actually, I'm sorry, I would correct myself, very loosely. And to me, the solution to that, and I used to have an associate that did this years ago. The solution to that is to get employees more educated on how to do their accounting in the bigger companies. Now, even though these bigger companies, they're big in terms of how much their revenues are. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bigger corporation. They're still considered a small business. There's not a lot of people there. There may be 20 or less employees. However, there's still an accounting that's done on a daily basis that needs to be done in their environment, not something that they could just say, here, do this for me. It has to be in their environment. There's constant activity going on. So at the end of the year, they would give me those books, And that's when it would get a little difficult. When I say they, I'm referring to an example. They would give me those books at the end of the year, and it gets sometimes a little hard, a little difficult to know where certain things are supposed to go. That doesn't mean they would need to get an accounting degree. Some of it has to do with the mechanics of how to use QuickBooks, and that's what I think the issue is. A lot of people don't know how to use it. A specific category is not put into the right chart of accounts in QuickBooks. It's not a new an expense versus a revenue or vice versa or an asset. And you want to know something? That's not something that I'm able to just change on the fly while they have daily things going on in their business.
Right.
6 months down the road, so depending on how often that I do their accounting, sometimes 12 months.
Right. And just, it's funny too, because I'm not a fan of Yeah, I started.
I do not like QuickBooks at all.
Sorry, QuickBooks, if you ever see this. I mean, I just find it really cumbersome. It's really confusing. I'm not a tech Luddite. I'm a fairly intelligent person, and I understand the principles of accounting. Big fan of FIFO and LIFO. Big fan. But I find it unbelievably challenging to use, and so I end up not using it.
Yeah, and that's what's happening with a lot of people. They'll use it, and they don't use it to what it really can do for you. And in my opinion, I agree with you 100%. It's very hard. There seems to be one step or two steps further that you have to do, which from an accounting perspective, in my opinion, doesn't have to be done. And it gets very confuses me. My knowledge of QuickBooks is not as vast as it should be because I don't really, it's hard to navigate the program. I could do basic journal entries, but I have an account program that's not QuickBooks. And I think the QuickBooks is more for the smaller business. I even have clients that are bigger businesses that use QuickBooks. However, they have someone in their organization that's very well versed in it. But it's more often than not where that is not the case, where the person would not be versed.
Right. So let me then ask you, so as we go through three things that small businesses can do to help you help them, one is to then get to start using some accounting software that is easy for them to use, that makes sense for them. It doesn't matter which one it is, but use it and use it well. Correct?
Yeah, and there are softwares out there.
What do you like?
I would never. I use a big corporate software for.
No, but who for small businesses, because you've seen. Sorry. I know we're having a little trouble with your audio, so I kind of missed it.
Hello?
Yeah, you're cutting in and out a little bit. It's okay.
Tree.
Peachtree.
Yes, Peachtree.
Peachtree accounting. Okay.
Very good software, very much easier to use.
Okay, I'm going to look into it. How come you never told me that before? I'm going to go look into that.
I don't know, because,
Whatever. I'm teasing. So, so that's tip number one. Tip number two for small businesses, how can we help you help us? What do we need to get to you besides, nice, clean accounting from potentially Peachtree Accounting? Maybe don't wait to the last minute at tax time. Oh, we're having a little trouble with audio.
It's funny. Sometimes I can't control that. I can't tell people when to come in and when not to come in and when to get me their work. My pet peeve is people that don't come in for 2 or 3 years. That to me is a little crazy, but it happens. Not too often. Not actually a very, very, very small percentage, but I can't control when people come in. This year versus last year, I had a lot of people come in droves the last 2 weeks, and they happen to be some of the more complicated tax returns. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to come in, come prepared. If you know what you have last year, then come in and you know that not much has changed. Be able to go through what you had last year and know that you're not missing anything. one of the things that I always send a letter out to people every year before tax season, and I always say to them, if there's any counting that needs to be done on a small business that you have that's not on any sort of entity like a corporation or LLC, please make sure you have all your expenses and income lined up. And I have something called an organizer that they short of the letter, and then I send it to them, and it has everything that they have from the personal tax return from the prior year. It has the number that they have, so they can go through that number, what they have from the current year, and compare it to see either, well, does it seem to be in line? Did I do better than I did last year? Is there something that came up last year that didn't happen this year that I should.
Right.
Which it has a questionnaire on it as well. So that's something that I could provide to them that would help them, except that, I only have a handful full of people that actually have a lot of stuff, but they forget to give me something. That's just Murphy's Law.
I know. Just so you know, we're having just a little bit of audio difficulty. Just so you know. Hey, so then number 3 might be, and it goes back to accounting software, but understand what's expensible and what's not expensible. So maybe keep good records throughout the year around business services that are tax deductible, and which, I was teasing earlier, but, are things like fees that you might have to pay for paid platforms for social media, and digital marketing. Can I expense Google AdWords?
Well, it is industry specific that to answer your question. In your particular industry, I would say absolutely. A lot of times you got to look at some triggers of what seems would be conducive of being in the industry of social media marketing business. But if you're some car mechanic and, you said, well, I have an Instagram account and I smile when I finish cars and, when I'm done with the car or something.
But a car mechanic who's running, their own business, they could
That
expense.
was a bad example.
Yeah, no, but it's a good example because no, they can't expense. I'm teasing when I say, obviously, can they expense their time on Instagram? But as far as something like, an ad buy using something like Google AdWords or a network buy on Bing or wherever, that actually is a business expense. That's marketing.
Well, yeah, I said that was a bad example. Actually, it's probably a bad example with a lot of industries that would use that particular Instagram or Google ad or whatever as publicly deductible. I was using the car example as it is a bad. You were right. You could say, hey, they could use that for your business still. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to
because those are free services.
I can't think of an example. Because that can be considered advertising, supplies, or whatever you want to consider it to be within your business. It's some general expense. So yes, the answer to your question, which I made a long story even longer, is yes.
Yes.
By the way, how's the audio now? Is the audio any better?
No, it's still cutting in and out. So I was going to say we're coming up on 10:30, but I don't want to leave without sort of addressing one other thing that I think you have some knowledge around, which is small business loans. What can you share with the folks at home about small business loans? Where do people get started?
Well, I always tell, small business loans, just in my opinion, they are good for people, an asset that they can borrow against. So let me go 2-step answer on this.
Okay.
The SBA loans are great, for someone that is, doesn't own a house, that is starting a new business. The problem is that I've always found is that because of all the security measures and because of all the banks getting screwed out of money over the last, not now, but I'm saying when the real estate market really bottomed out, years ago, not too many years ago, I think they're a lot more cautious, and it seems to be harder, especially, and I don't want to say it's specific banks. It pretty much is from every, there's going to be something that's going to be a snag that needs to be resolved with every bank, with information that you have to get them. or requirements that you have to provide them that just seem so nitpicky. So I tell the people, if that's the only way you need to go and that's your only source of how you're going to do this, I always say that's your last resort. If you're able to, if you own a house, I always say try to get a home equity loan against your the interest off, not have to worry about putting up all this. You know, the reason why the small business are more party a business, you know how it's going to go, and what if it doesn't go? Then what are you going to do? That's the problem, and that's where banks have gotten. And I've actually had this situation years ago with a client of mine. The banks, the business went downhill. He's still okay, and ended up not being a great situation. So,
well, David, thank you. I was going to say thank you for time because it's after 10:30, and I don't want to keep you because you're busy doing everybody's work for them, and we have deadlines here too. And I also wanted to have a special guest. Hold on, special guest, come here. Special guest, special guest, come here, come here, come here. No, good. Hold on. Wait. Oh, I heard him whining. He knew there was a Boston Terrier fan in the house.
Oh.
Hold on. Oh.
Hi, Bobo. Oh boy, he's a big boy. Bowie.
He's so
now,
not
if I had my Bostons, it would be chaotic because I'm sure my dogs would hear it or whatever. So. All right,
David Weinstein. If anybody anybody anywhere, is looking for some credible, solid, empathetic, warm accounting advice and counsel, David Weinstein's the guy to go to, as far as I'm concerned. That's all I got to say. And fun fact around the Throwback Thursday, not only did David and I go to high school together, but his mother and my father went to high school together. That's a Throwback Thursday.
Oi, marron.
That was a combination of both my Jewish and Italian. Yeah. My oi marron. Right. I love it. All right. I love you, David Weinstein. Thank you for joining us and your safe advice. And tell all of your young accounting and CPA professional friends and colleagues that, you know, they're not going to get all those referrals. They should be on social.
Social mediaizing.
Exactly. They should be social mediaizing. All right. We'll talk to you soon. I owe you a steak and a martini.
Yeah. Okay. Whenever I'm in LA.
Yeah, well, soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Oh, hey, if anybody's still here, programming note, tomorrow, join us at 10 a.m. for Tony Levine. We're going to wrap up tomorrow, Tony Levine, Big T's Toys, and other extremely fun serial entrepreneur information. All right, everybody, #Small Business Week. See you later.